Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to another one in my Lost Railway Walk series. Today I'm revisiting my very first Lost Railway Walk, which was from Symonds Yat to the Welsh town of Monmouth, tracing the former railway line that once ran from Ross-on-Wye in Herefordshire to Monmouth in Wales, of course. Today I thought I'd do an addition to that, so we're going to look at another section of that. So I'm starting the walk here just outside the little village of Welsh Bicknor, which lies in Herefordshire, close to the River Wye. And we're walking to Welsh Bicknor and starting our walk there, following as much as I can the old railway track to Symonds Yat, where it comes out the other end of the tunnel that we saw in the first video, in the very first episode. So I hope you can join me again here on a very cold -2 January, but very, very beautiful day in Herefordshire. But soon we'll be catching up into Gloucestershire. Now, Welsh Bicknor lies in the Courtfield estate, so parking here is very, very tricky. I don't think there's any parking in Welsh Bicknor itself, but I will investigate that. I know there's a church there and a youth hostel, because I remember cycling here many, many moons ago, and it was at that point I was staying overnight and I thought I'd walk by the Wye. I think I mentioned this before, and I fell in the River Wye. Hopefully we won't be falling in the river today. But yes, it's a beautiful day here. As I said, slightly warming up. It'll probably warm up to about 5 or 6 degrees. So it'll be the warmest day for some time. So the last day before the rains return tomorrow. So that's why I wanted to get this walk in today. Now, I always think of the land around here as a bit of a lost corner. We're on the borders of both Wales, Gloucestershire and Herefordshire, currently in Herefordshire there. Doesn't get that visited, Welsh Bicknor, that often. Tourists do, however, go to nearby Goodrich Castle, and I did a video about that probably about 18 months ago now. Goodrich Castle is well worth visiting if you're into your castles. I'll put a link to that video separately. But apart from that, this area doesn't get touched by tourists very much at all. As I say, it's a little hidden gem of a place in between a bend of the River Wye. Now, under the trees here lies our first railway feature of the walk, and that is a tunnel. It's Welsh Bicknor Tunnel. Sometimes goes under a different name, but I always know it's Welsh Bicknor Tunnel. And the southern port of it comes out just before the banks of the Wye, and then there is a bridge which took the railway across the River Wye and into Gloucestershire, and that's what we're hoping to go across today, to then follow the track. But it also says on the OS map, I'll insert it now, that there is an air shaft somewhere in there. I can't actually see it, but according to that there is. But if I can, we'll make out the portal of the tunnel as we go on. I will certainly endeavour to do that. We're now descending now. We've gotten to the heights there of the estate. The farm is bearing off to my left, your right of the screen, but we're descending down to the church, the YHA and the river. Now, the name Welsh Bicknor is a little bit confusing. There is also an English Bicknor which lies the other side of the River Wye, although neither of them lie in Wales. This one here, Welsh Bicknor, lies in Herefordshire. The one on the other side lies in Gloucestershire, but I've never been able to establish if the name Welsh Bicknor meant that originally this did lie in Wales. If you do know, then please drop a comment the usual way below. Welsh Bicknor Church is looking stunning through the trees there in the sunlight. We'll make that our first stop. we'll have a quick look around the church. I know this isn't a church type video, we're interested in the railways, but you can't come here without having a look at it. One of the most isolated churches in Herefordshire, I would think, but it's a beautiful setting right by the River Wye. I hope you agree, and we'll have a look at that before we start our journey proper, following the old railway track bed that once went south from Ross down to Monmouth. Lots of shooting going on the other side of the valley there. It sounds like firework night. But that behind me there is Welsh Bicknor Youth Hostel. It's the first time I've seen that since I was a teenager. So it's quite a retrospective moment coming back here again. Wonderful place for a youth hostel. Really, really secluded and beautiful spot by the Wye. Now, sadly, Welsh Bicknor Church isn't open today. I thought it probably wouldn't be, but because of that, I can't get access to any information leaflets in there to tell you more about the church, and I don't have a mobile phone signal here either. So when I'm doing the auditing, scrolling hopefully along the bottom of the screen now should give you some information more about this fantastically sited church here by the River Wye at Welsh Bicknor. Next to the church you have this ruined building there. I don't know if this was formerly a religious building. I don't think it was. It doesn't look like it has huge artistic or architectural merit, should I say. I think it was probably a building, maybe it was a cottage for the local vicar priest that looked after the church here. Because apart from the YHA building, which we passed a bit further up the hill there are no other buildings here in the village of Welsh Bicknor. Probably there was, and it's one of those villages that have just disappeared over the years, maybe to do with a plague or for whatever other reason, but sadly that is the only one, but it's still a spectacular location. The church itself here isn't a ruin as well, and it doesn't look that old. It looks like it was probably restored in Victorian times. This is a rough guess, probably around 1850, 1860, judging by those columns there, those Gothic columns on the top of the tower. So obviously somebody spent some money on it in the 19th century, probably fueled up by money from maybe mines, quarrying, that sort of thing. But yeah, it has some interesting brickwork as well. So it is really surprising to see how much money was spent on this beautiful church and beautiful location. I wonder what the story behind that is. I don't know. If I can find out, as I say, I'll put that in the usual way below. Anyway, let's continue with our railway journey, and before I do that, I want to tell you some more about the history of this railway. So our railway of interest today is 13 miles long between the Welsh town of Monmouth and the Herefordshire town of Ross-on-Wye, which, if you want to know what Ross-on-Wye looks like, I did a short bite there recently, in fact this month, so I'll link to that at the end of this video as well. It's a beautiful little Herefordshire town. So yeah, it was 13 miles long, what's that, about 21 kilometres, something like that. It opened in 1873, but it didn't reach all the way down to Monmouth. I think it stopped around Symonds Yat, which was the start of our first Lost Railway Walks adventure here on West Country Wanderings, and the extension down to Monmouth opened in 1874. Now, unlike a lot of the lines that we cover here on West Country Wanderings, this one wasn't closure due to Dr. Beeching. It actually closed way back in 1959, long time before his acts and book and recommendations closed hundreds of lines across the United Kingdom, as I'm sure you're familiar with. But I think it closed because, well, roads, local bus services, and it goes through primarily a very, very rural area there were a couple of halts, one which we covered on the last video, the first one in the series, and there was another halt a little bit further from here, between here and Ross-on-Wye, called Walford, which is a village about 2 or 3 miles south of the town of Ross-on-Wye. So apart from those two intermediate halts, there was nothing else between the two towns themselves, and in themselves they're both quite small towns, although both Ross and Monmouth, because they now lie on Ross lies on the M50, Ross lying on the dual carriageway, the A40, they have built up in recent times, so it would probably be of use now because more people live in the area now than they did when the railway was operating. So what I'm going to do from here, leaving Welsh Bicknor now, is we're going to join up with the Wye Valley Walk and see what we can see, if anything, of that portal of the tunnel. And as I say, it went through that cliff face. Well, I've been walking down from where we started our walk down to the youth hostel here, so it had to bury underneath that and then crosses the bridge over the River Wye, so we'll certainly have a look at that. So see you in a bit. I'm just going to have some tea though, just to warm up. It is actually starting to warm up. It was about -5 when I left home. Now it's about 2 degrees, I would say, so it is warming up quite nicely, but it's a really beautiful crisp day here in Herefordshire. Now that's our railway bridge over there. We'll be crossing that shortly. One of 2 main bridges on the route between Ross-on-Wye and Monmouth. The other bridge we actually covered at the end of the first video in this series, which was the bridge taking again over the River Wye, which linked the 2 stations at Monmouth Mayhill, taking it into Monmouth Troy, which is the bigger of the 2. That was also an important junction station because there it met lines going into Wales and the line heading down through the Wye Valley past Tintern to the town of Chepstow. Now, for a heart-stopping moment there, I thought that was going to ruin our walk because I saw the metal shuttering there, and I thought that the footbridge, which was the railway bridge of course, taking us across the River Wye and into Gloucestershire, was closed off for repairs and maintenance. No, it's just around the side of it, and I think that's to stop cyclists going over it. But I think maybe it used to be open for cyclists, and probably them pounding over at speed has loosen the old floorboards, if we like, going across the former railway bridge here. But before we go on to that, we've just got our railway track, which is here, and behind the bridge is the entrance to our tunnel, our Welsh Bicknor tunnel. There's also some non-railway interest here. It looks like it's an underground bunker. Let's just have a quick look at that. So I think this bunker behind me here, sorry about the shadow and the lighting is quite low and it is quite strong. This dates from the Second World War and it's just slightly sunken. There are some steps around the side there, but it's a bit damp and full of rubbish like these things usually are. It's not that interesting, but it is interesting in itself. I think that would have been put there to guard the bridge itself in the Second World War. They probably have a home guard gun emplacement there, just watching out for any unwarranted activity to blow the bridge up, because it would have been a strategic bridge, although it has always been rather low priority, certainly not a main line. Let's go and have a look at the portal here. Now this tunnel entrance here, similar to what we saw when I was doing the Lost Railway walks in the Forest of Dean back last autumn, I believe it was, from Whitecroft there. There was a tunnel there and we couldn't get any closer to it because of the fallen trees. I've managed to get a lot closer to this one than I did that one, because that was terrible, but I managed to get a shot of that. It is all bricked up though. There is a red notice on the top there. It said danger tunnel collapse. So sadly, looks like inside the tunnel there, it's only a short tunnel. I'll put in the exact length of the tunnel running along the bottom now. I don't know when that collapse happened, but sadly this tunnel is no more, and as far as you couldn't suddenly reopen the line and just put some tracks down and have trains running through it, because there's a major collapse there, which we've come across before, haven't we, on things like the Sapperton Tunnel on the older Cotswold Canals, Thames and Severn Canal. But yeah, so that's our tunnel entrance there of Welsh Bicknor Tunnel, and so it goes through that hill that I was walking down, was making my way down to the youth hostel there. It comes down the other side just before the loop in the Wye Valley, joins up with the Wye Valley Trail there, making its way up through Walford and on to Ross-on-Wye. But anyway, we're going to head back across that bridge and into Gloucestershire, down to Symonds Yat. Now, walking across the bridge, it is a little bit disappointing because it looks like it's got plywood sides and plywood base, so you certainly can't make out where the rail tracks were. Certainly no ballast or even the ironwork that's underneath it. But what I will do though is show you the views of the River Wye from both sides of the bridge, because we can overlook the top of what amounts to the parapet of the bridge here. I think I mentioned earlier on about the two halts. I've missed out a station in between. That was the one at Kern Bridge, and maybe we'll have a look at that area heading up to Ross on a future episode here of Lost Railway Walks on West Country Wanderings. Here though, there is an interesting building. If you have a quick look at it, you think that must be railway related, but I think it's actually just a boathouse, because there wasn't a railway at this location here. But it's still interesting to see. And it's slightly confusing here because our track bed is actually at high level. It isn't where I am. That isn't the track bed there, but we will be linking up with it. It's actually at high level because it's coming off the bridge, and I had to go down some steps to get off the bridge, so it's a high level. And there is a factory there. Some of it is redundant now, some of it isn't, and I don't know when the railway was running whether that factory was ever rail served. I'll have a look at that and see if I can find any photos or stats on whether the factory was rail served here, the other side of the river here, which is now in Gloucestershire. So that's our Derelict factory there, built in 1916 according to the keystone and the brickwork there. And our railway track just the other side of that fence. It is all securely fenced off though, so I can't actually get to it. And it runs very, very close to that factory wall there, so I can't believe there wasn't any kind of connection between the railway and the factory when the line was running. There's also some bits of, well, there's like some hard standing here. I'm in the field. I've just come up a little bit from the Wye is just down there to get my bearings, so I'm just slightly off the footpath here. And we've got some other bits and pieces here, including this, and I don't know what this is. Well, it certainly goes down a long way. It's kind of a square brick structure raised up about half a metre, if you can see that there, half a metre off the ground, and then there is a hole in it, maybe 30 centimetres by 30 centimetres there, with the some branches over the top of it. Sorry about the sunlight. It goes down, nothing in it apart from some broken pipes, so maybe it was something to do with drainage, perhaps for the railway, I don't know. So we've got some original railway fence posts in here as well, and I'd say our railway tracks just over there, but there is a tall fence, so obviously they don't want anybody inside those factory buildings. Probably dangerous, probably covered in asbestos and fallen sheeting in that, so I'm certainly not going to go in there. We will be linking up with our track bay though, so don't despair, we'll see it again. We just need to follow the footpath, we'll come across this field over a stile down in the corner of the field there, and then we'll be linking up with it again shortly. But our river, as I say, is just down there, and it's a beautiful white out here on the frost. It's very pleasurable to walk on because it's very crisp as opposed to the mud that I've had for the past 3 or 4 months. So our railway was just here, just the other side of the fence as far as I can ascertain, because the field is at a bit of a slope, so it wouldn't have been there. And I wouldn't mind betting that this was used as a loading stage or loading bay here, just where those 2 cars are. There is a raised bit and a covering as well, so that was probably used where they loaded up whatever. I think it might have been an ironworks, steelworks maybe, and they probably loaded the trains here. But and that's just pure speculation. If I can find anything, I'll put it in below. I've got the factory again behind me here, and this bit here, there is a lot of railway remains, lots of old sleepers and other bits and pieces which I think probably aren't related to the railway so much as more to do with the factory itself. Some odd, looks like folding tables, but they're not. Something to do with the factory. And there's bits of other bits, possibly some signals, maybe. But maybe this bit here was where the tracks widened out, so you had one bit going straight into the heart of the factory, other one directly taking us back to the bridge that we came across earlier. But it's a fascinating area, but it's great to be able to get in this. I'm going to follow the railway track bit because our River Wye and the walk is down there. So I'm going to follow this, where it's still quite wide, the track bed would have been at this section here in what is now Gloucestershire. We're close to places like Lidbrook, that's not far away from where I am currently. And that had a separate line there, of course, which it headed down towards Cinderford, or you have the complex network of the Forest of Dean railways. You just can't help thinking though that, it's warmed up, so I'm taking my hat off. Can't help thinking though that this line here passing through this beautiful, beautiful Wye Valley would have made a spectacular tourist draw here. People would have flocked and paid extra money to have travelled on the line between Ross-on-Wye and Monmouth, indeed on down to Chepstow on the Wye Valley line itself. But it goes through the most stunning scenery, and it's just a real shame that it closed when there were less enlightened days about the environment and how much traffic would be on roads and all that sort of thing. But there's our River Wye, and I didn't mention, when I did the script for the Ross-on-Wye town video, I didn't mention in that about the fact that the River Wye does suffer, unfortunately, with a lot of pollution. It doesn't seem too bad today, but some of that is to do with poultry farms further on up the River Wye, both in England and in Wales, and yes, the effluent from all those poultry factories is all the people eating chickens, unfortunately. But there is a glimmer of good news on that. There are some things that will be happening to improve the water quality, because it is unfortunately a European threatened river because of the biodiversity and the fish life in it. And I just hope that things can change before it's too late and we lose one of our most beautiful English rivers. So now I've just come up those steps through that kissing gate you just saw, and this is our railway track again. Runs through a little bit of the woodland here. That's looking back towards where we came from, Welsh Bicknor. We're heading through this way, then comes back in through what looks like a little bit of a cutting, and then it curves around, follows the Wye around to the base of Symonds Yat rock. That's not a technical term, I realise that, but hopefully we might be able to see the portal, the other end of the tunnel that we didn't quite see last time, because it's behind that hotel private area there at Symonds Yat by the railway. But still beautiful, beautiful day here in January. Now see Symonds Yat rocks there towering above the river. Just had a long straight section there, but it's beautiful though. Not much of railway interest to show you on that, other than the fact you can tell that it's going down quite a bit of significant gradient from where it crossed over the River Wye, and obviously the River Wye itself is descending. It goes through a beautiful curve over there, as you can see, and still have frost over the ground. Noticeably colder here because we're in a much tighter valley than where we were back when we started just above Welsh Bicknor Church there. Right up there I can make out the viewpoint where I did a piece to camera and kicked off the Lost Railway Walk series. Beautiful walk view, should I say, looking at the bend, that famous view, the bend in the River Wye here in Gloucester and looking across into Herefordshire as well. Well, I didn't think getting up to our tunnel here at Symonds Yat. So this is the other portal, the other end of the tunnel, where I started the very first Lost Railway walks here on West Country Wanderings, but we couldn't get up to the portal because it's behind a hotel and that's in private property. But this one, not only is it dry here, it's not covered in trees littering it, you can get right up to it. Can't go in it. It is locked, and judging by the state of the rock on that side, that's probably just as well, because the rock here, slate in this area, very unstable, and unfortunately the front of the portal, where is it, all around there, you can just see it, doesn't look like it's in very good condition either. Now, we're going to end the video kind of around here at Symonds Yat, and I was going to retrace my steps back to my car, taking some photographs on the way. But what I think I'm going to do, it's now about 1:30, so I'm going to stop for lunch around here. Well, hopefully I find a picnic table somewhere, and go a different way back, going via across Huntsman's Bridge across the River Wye. So what I'll do, I won't do loads of pieces to camera, I'll just give you some photos and some video clips of my route back via Goodrich to return to the car. So you can actually make this a circular walk, and what I'll do is I'll mend the OS map out route that I've put in today, and I'll link to the description of that route in today's video. Well, unfortunately I couldn't find a picnic table, so I'm making do with these steps here. This is the steps that takes you to the top, the viewpoint at Symonds Yat Rock. The only time I think I've ever come to Symonds Yat, I haven't seen another soul around at all. Probably walkers don't like the colder temperatures. It's fine if you wrap up. I find it fine. It's been a beautiful day. I hope you've enjoyed this Lost Railway Walks. Well, we did find not one but two railway tunnels. We also found the railway bridge crossing the River Wye there. Hope you enjoyed it. We found some other remains. And I'll conclude today's video looking at the route back to Goodrich over Huntsman Bridge. Put some video clips and photos into that. Until next time, West Country Wanderings, all the best for now. Cheers. Bye-bye.